You've now suddenly put Dantas back in the lineup, and Dantas stinks. Like, Dantas absolutely stinks. And we are now literally looking at we're now looking at a situation where Chloe Bibby got garbage time minutes, and then everyone's trying to justify it, being like, "Oh, she was really bad when she got on in the start of the fourth quarter. You know, they cooked her on defense." First of all, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to hold it against them.
The decision to acquire Chloe BBY raises serious questions about roster management strategy. The signing appears puzzling when considering her limited playing time and eventual benching. What purpose did this move serve if the player wasn't intended for meaningful minutes? The situation becomes more confusing when examining BBY's early performance. She showed promise in her initial games, yet faced consistent DNPs afterward. If the team didn't plan to utilize her skills, alternative options existed in the market. Defensive-minded wings were available, athletic players could be found, and size could have been added through other acquisitions.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to hold it against somebody who sat on their ass for 3 quarters and then suddenly is put on the fourth quarter when the game is already essentially over. When the game is already over. Like, I absolutely am not going to blame a player for that in those 3 minutes. Like, if she came on and started getting cooked, if they were ahead and she comes on and she's getting cooked and then suddenly we're down, and not only that, like, she's being exclusively put on in weird lineups. Like, against Seattle, she's had 0 points in her last 2 games.
The coaching decision to reinsert Dantas into the rotation while sidelining BBY creates additional concerns. Dantas has struggled significantly, yet receives preference over a player who demonstrated capability in limited opportunities. This choice seems counterproductive given their respective contributions. Recent games highlight this imbalance. BBY received garbage time minutes against the Sparks, playing only when the outcome was decided. Critics point to her fourth quarter struggles, but expecting quality performance from a cold substitute entering a decided game seems unrealistic. A player sitting for 3 quarters cannot be expected to immediately impact winning times.
She has played a combined 15 minutes in her last 3 games. She played 13 minutes in the biggest game of the year against the Phoenix Mercury. She played 13 against the Phoenix Mercury. And you know what? She was good enough to guard Satu. She was seen as being a good enough defender to guard DeWan of Honor. And she forced Paige into 1 of 4 from the field. She is not a bad, she's not a bad defender. She's not a good defender by any means.
Her usage patterns reveal deeper issues. Against Seattle, BBY again recorded 0 points while playing minimal minutes across recent contests. She managed just 15 minutes total in her last 3 appearances, including only 13 minutes during the crucial Phoenix Mercury matchup. Despite limited time, she effectively defended key opponents and forced difficult shots from star players. BBY's defensive capabilities shouldn't be dismissed. While not elite, she presents adequate perimeter defense. Her tendency to back off opponents stems from lateral quickness limitations, but she rarely gets completely beaten.
Bad defender. She's not a good defender by any means. The problem is with Chloe Bibby's defense is she does back off a lot. She's hard to beat, but because she's not fast laterally, she kind of backs off, and it's very rare that she gets absolutely cooked on the perimeter. And it's a problem that Sophie Cunningham has her defense as well, except Sophie is quite a bit quicker than Chloe Bibby. But Chloe Bibby is a passable defender. Like, it's not her fault. Like, she should have been there guarding. She's on the floor to start the fourth quarter. And she's guarding ultra-aggressive Diarca Hamby. And I think
this defensive approach mirrors Sophie Cunningham's style, though Cunningham possesses superior speed. The Mercury games showcase her potential. Tasked with guarding challenging assignments, BBY performed adequately despite questionable substitution decisions. Her early season shooting displayed promise with consistent 3-point accuracy before opportunities dried up. Since those initial games, her shot attempts have been severely limited. Lineup combinations further hamper her effectiveness. Being paired with struggling players like Dantas creates impossible situations.
And I think she was on the floor with, I can't even remember who she was on the floor. It might have been Aaliyah. Oh, no, sorry. No, is she guarding Azare? I think Aaliyah was guarding Cam Brink, and I'm like, she should be guarding Cam Brink. Because Cam Brink's not as much of a threat, not as much of a threat for her, and Aaliyah can guard Azare. Or even still, I thought she did a good job defensively against the Mercury. I didn't understand why they were Why they were out there?
When Dantas dominates possessions with isolation plays while shooting poorly, teammates become spectators. This dynamic leaves capable players unable to contribute meaningfully. The previous game exemplified these problems. BBY entered during the fourth quarter in an awkward lineup configuration just as opponents began connecting on shots. Her missed three-pointer becomes magnified unfairly, while plus-minus statistics don't capture the full context. Players can execute correctly yet still suffer from team defensive breakdowns. Meanwhile, Dantas receives consistent opportunities despite repeatedly failing to capitalize.
Why they were out there? Posting. Why they were out there subbing her off against the Mercury for defensive reasons. But, she had, in her first 3 games, she was 2 of 4, 2 of 4, and 2 of 3 from 3. She has taken 1 3-point shot since. And the thing is she's being denied. She's just being put on in weird lineups. She was put on against the Seattle Storm with ISO Dantas. ISO Dantas.
Every possession sees her getting exploited defensively while providing minimal offensive value. The contrast in treatment between these players defies logic. Current roster construction suggests an either-or mentality between BBY and Dantas. Previous games showed both receiving DMPs alternately, indicating they cannot coexist effectively. However, forcing other players like Timms to play alongside Dantas creates similar problems. Any player sharing the court with current form Dantas faces significant disadvantages. Dantas' recent evolution into an isolation-heavy player compounds these issues.
ISO Dantas is what the Indiana Fever had to deal with. She's there on the floor. She's not able to do anything because ISO Dantas is on the floor against the Storm. You've then got a situation yesterday where she doesn't get put on until the fourth quarter, plays 2 minutes, is in a weird lineup, and they just start hitting shots. She missed the 3-point shot. Okay, cool. And I know you can look at...
She attempts nearly 1 shot per minute while converting at poor rates. Every touch becomes a scoring opportunity rather than facilitating team offense. While this approach worked against Phoenix, it has failed consistently since. The team's preference for Dantas over BBY lacks justification. If Dantas cannot be traded due to salary constraints, keeping a more capable player on the bench wastes roster construction. Dantas shoots 30% overall and 27% from 3, while providing negative defensive value and minimal rebounding impact. Team defensive strategies reveal another disparity.
She missed the 3-point shot. Okay, cool. And I know you can look at the plus minus and just be like, oh, she was minus whatever in however many minutes. But that doesn't tell the entire story. You can literally do nothing wrong and teams can light you up. She got burned once in this game. But I'm sorry, Dantas got burned in every single possession. Dantas got burned on absolutely every single possession. And I'm just there what was the point? So clearly, Stephanie White, it's an either or because we saw Dantas getting DNPs when it came to Chloe Bibby.
Opponents actively face guard BBY, recognizing her as a legitimate threat. Conversely, they ignore Dantas, allowing open looks because they expect misses. This contrast in respect levels indicates which player opponents truly fear. The Fever appear to have sour feelings toward BBY despite her competent play. This situation makes little sense given roster needs. Any mid-season addition should contribute meaningfully to playoff rotations. Current construction suggests Timms and Turner won't receive playoff minutes, meaning Dantas becomes necessary by default.
At one point in this song, she calls the referees useless. And here in the South, we got a saying, you're worthless as tits on a boar hog. Well, that sounds pretty accurate for the WNBA officiating. And what's pretty wild, and I made this comment because I shared, she has come out, she's been fined again, by the way, by the WNBA because she made comments criticizing when she told them and
alternative options existed throughout the signing period. Size could have been added through Russell Linskin or other available bigs. Instead, the organization committed fully to BBY before apparently changing their evaluation. Now she sits despite showing more capability than her replacement. Previous performances support this assessment. Against Dallas, BBY played 6
Against
productive
Dallas,
minutes,
Bibby played 6
contributing
productive
positively
minutes,
in limited time.
contributing
While
positively
brief
in
success
limited
doesn't
time.
guarantee
While
stardom,
brief success
it demonstrates
doesn't
more
guarantee
promise than
stardom.
Dantis has
It
shown
demonstrates
consistently
more
over 2
promise than
seasons.
Dantis
Because she made comments criticizing when she told them and talked about getting fined for this on her podcast, they fined her again. By the way, she made a point to be like, yeah, you know, some of the refs are really good. But she talked about the officiating and boom, they nailed her again. Now, is it uncommon for coaches or players to get fined in a professional league when talking about officiating? No, that's not uncommon. However, when you
Dantis has received extensive opportunities without capitalizing. Her positive moments consist of isolated quarters rather than sustained excellence. Over multiple years, she has failed to develop offensive consistency sufficient to offset defensive limitations. Meanwhile, BBY deserves extended evaluation based on her demonstrated potential. The current approach essentially reduces the playoff rotation to 9 players, with one being a clearly inadequate contributor. This limitation stems from poor roster management and questionable player evaluation.
that's not uncommon. However, when your league is looking worse than the NFL on officiating, you know what you might ought to do? Sit down in the corner and shut the bleep up. And maybe you ought not be fining your players over it because your officiating is dog shit. I mean, it's bad. It's real bad. Sophie Cunningham has come out on her podcast today and talked about the fact that they nailed her again.
Sophie Cunningham faces mounting financial penalties from the WNBA after continued criticism of league officiating through her podcast. Show me something.